Welcome back, Tiger fans, to Rock'em Radio's football podcast. I'm Nate Edwards. That's Nathan Hurst. This is Before the Box Score, your incredible recruiting show. Just top to bottom recruits. That's what we're going to be talking about because that's all that's happening. And boy, it's great to enjoy recruiting. What a novel thing for us Missouri fans. Nathan Hurst, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. It's fun to be excited about recruiting. Usually it's kind of at least in the past, it's sort of felt like a something to have to deal with as opposed to something to get to enjoy. Not nearly super fun. There have been fun moments in Mizzou recruiting past. You know, a DGB commitment, a Luther Burden commitment, but it's never been a week after week, or in the case of this past week, day after day celebration of all that is Mizzou football. Like it has been. So I'm loving it.
Yeah, it's incredible. The DGB recruitment was a lot of fun. I know it didn't end up as a win for the good guys, but the Ezekiel Elliott commitment was very engaging as well. I think they did the same thing. They took him to a basketball game. That was another one where didn't feel like, certainly at the time, didn't feel like Mizzou had any business to be around this kid, and he was giving Mizzou the time of day, which was rare. Obviously, Zeke ended up at Ohio State, won a national championship with them, and then ended up with the Cowboys. So, it all worked out just fine for him. But yeah, it was a rare recruit that you would really follow, hardcore follow. Just because you never, under Pinkel, you would get diamonds in the rough. You get a couple of big names, but that was it. And the 5-star guy, oh man, that was. For them to roll out the red carpet for those guys was quite something else. And, you can still hear those stories now, but it's so commonplace. If you ask me what was the recruitment like for Luther Burden or, Dominic Lovett back in the day, what was it like when they wooed Theo Weiss or Mookie Cooper out of the transfer portal? You don't really hear those stories. You don't really, I certainly don't follow it as much, but boy, it's just Eli Drinkwitz can recruit, man. He knows the talent, and he can get him. And I know he doesn't close any better than anybody else, but he's just on an unprecedented run right now of, I want this guy, we're going to get this guy. And so let's dive into it, because it's been an incredible July 4th weekend for Mizzou, for Eli Drinkwitz and his staff. We're going to talk about all the recruits that he got, because that's the fun stuff. So let's go in chronological order, I guess. That makes the most sense. We kicked it off with a guy named Javon Boggs. Now, he's a wide receiver. He is currently the 67th best wide receiver in the country, or thereabouts, depending on the recruiting service that you're looking at. It's from Cocoa, Florida. He is 6'1", 190 pounds, allegedly, and he committed on our nation's birthday on July 4th. Hurst, I watched this tape, and my thoughts have already been kind of thrown out into the internet, into the ether. What did you think when he said he would commit it, and what did you think of his tape once you watched it?
I mean, I was really excited. I wasn't necessarily shocked. His name has really been in the Mizzou ether since Matt Zoller's committed. They kind of have been, the two of them, even though they live in Pennsylvania and Florida respectively, somehow have been very public about being chummy together, wanting to play together. Way back in, was that April that Zoller was committed? March, April? It seems like forever ago now. And so they've really been tied together, and probably even a little before that when Boggs decommitted from Ohio State, and it was clear that Zollers wasn't going to get an offer from Ohio State. I'm not sure if he would have taken it or not, but they've kind of been always very public, at least on X or Twitter, going back and forth, chatting, and anytime Boggs would post something, Zollers would hop in and say, "Hey, you know where you want to be." So it seemed like Zollers gets a big credit for helping to bring Boggs in. He's just a really, really good wide receiver. I don't know if there's any one specific thing that he excels at compared to everything else. It seems when you think about all the skills that you want in a wide receiver, you want him to be fast, you want him to catch the ball, you want them to run really good routes. He does all those things. He does all those things really well. Just seems like a very solid route runner, which a lot of times out of high school, wide receivers, that's kind of the area that they need to most improve on, because they're used to, I am the most athletic, I'm the fastest guy, on the field. Doesn't matter if I, go 11 and a half yards before I cut in, or 12 yards or 10 yards. This guy is pretty polished already. Now, does he have some room for improvement? Sure, absolutely. But he already runs really good routes. He runs faster than everybody else on the field, which this is Florida. There's a lot of fast guys on the field in Florida high school football. So that's really impressive. He catches just about everything that I think gets thrown to him. So he checks all those big boxes. Just really, really exciting player. No one specific thing that really jumped out at me other than everything.
Yeah, they were crisp routes. I will agree with, without knowing what the play detailed. Like his cuts were very sharp. Not a lot of floating to the sideline, which a lot of younger receivers will kind of start, kind of floating that way and kind of bring their corner that way. And corners love that. Like, hell yeah, go to the sideline. We'll push you out, and then it doesn't matter if you catch it or not. So that's usually a sign of a younger or undisciplined receiver, and he doesn't really do that. Very, very crisp. I don't want to throw demerits on the guy. Obviously, he's very good, very good. A lot of talent there, and he's done a lot in all the various camps and all that stuff. And clearly, he's very talented. I can only go off of what I see. I don't see it. And it's. I hate to say that a positive is actually a demerit, but boy, he makes those defenses look so stupid. Like he does like a little head fake, and the defender's like, just gone. And he gives him like a 3-yard bubble for him to catch the ball. The amount of contested catches I saw in his highlight film was like 0. Okay, I like to see some of that. It's great that you can create separation in one of the fastest football states in the union, and just smoke fools and catch wide open balls. I'd also like to know what happens when someone's hanging with you, or you got to go over the middle, because that's an important part of being a receiver too. And I just haven't seen it yet. So. If you can juke dudes out of their shorts and make them look stupid, bravo. Do that at college too. I also want to know what it looks like when it's hard for him, and I haven't seen that yet. So either he's going to win, 3 Bolitnikovs and peace out of here in 3 years and be a number 1 overall receiver, or he's going to develop some of those skills over time, and then eventually we'll see it. But hey, you're not going to turn down a top 100 receiver, baby.
He's definitely not. And he, it's not to say that he can't do those things.
Yeah.
It's just isn't on his level. It's probably because he hasn't had to, because he jukes guys out of their shorts or burns them on his first step, to the point where he just hasn't had to do that yet.
Yeah.
And maybe that's something that he takes him a year or two in a SEC weight room to get a little stronger and build up that skill set if he doesn't have it yet. But he certainly has the athleticism to do it.
Oh, for sure.
You need to make sure he has the nose to get in, get his nose in there. And he probably does, but what just remains to be seen.
Yeah, you can't help but figure that part out, right? Whether it's practice at with your team or actual SEC experience, he's got to figure that out. But Missouri brings in a top 100 player. Like I said, the number 67 player in the nation currently, kind of depending on who you're looking at there. 13th best receiver, 13th best player in the state of Florida. So then, that was the 4th. On the 5th, Mizzou went out and did it again. They got a guy named Donovan Olugbode. I practiced that, Olugbode. Number 56 ranked player in the country. Also wide receiver, 9th best receiver in the country, 11th best player in the state of Florida. He plays for IMG Academy, which those guys because they're on TV. One of those few high schools that is. It's a football high school, so, take that for what you will. I believe he's an Illinois native by birth, but he is currently in Florida. This is interesting because, again, this is why I always go back to you can't trust the reported heights and weights. Javon Boggs is reported 6'1", 190, and Donovan Olugbode reported 6'1", 197. No, he plays receiver like he's 6'4", 215. I'm not saying that he's the next DGB, but he plays that physical style where he gets up in the corner or the safety and just out muscles dudes for balls. I actually liked his tape a lot more than I like Boggs because I saw the hard stuff and he excelled at the hard stuff. What were your takeaways from watching him?
That was absolutely it too. He plays, even if he is 6'1", it's hard to think that they under reported his size. He plays a lot. He does play a lot bigger than that. The body control that this guy has is incredible. That's what really stuck out to me. The strength, the body control, the balance. his quarterback, at least this past year, was not the most accurate guy that I've seen in terms of quarterback play. But that doesn't matter because he catches the ball no matter where it's thrown. As long as it's within the ability for his body to reach to where the ball is, he will catch that ball, whether it's behind him, above him, below him, in the arms of another guy that he just takes away. This guy catches everything that's within a 10-foot circle around him. It was really impressive. I not to shade Boggs at all, but I agree that I was blown away looking at his tape. Like, wow, this guy's only the ninth best receiver in the country. What do the top 8 guys look like? Because he's a stud. Now, is he the fastest receiver on the field? Probably not. He runs well, but he's big. He's strong. Kind of reminds me. I mean, he's definitely on the possession receivers. I think that's how you would kind of fit him in the mold.
Sure.
A little bit smaller version of, and probably a faster version, but Marcus Lucas really stuck out to me as the big guy that's going to win balls over the middle. Maybe not going to beat you in a foot race, with the fastest cornerback down the field, but he doesn't have to do that because he's going to be stronger than you. He's going to be perhaps quicker in space than you are, if not faster down the field. And once he catches the ball, he's really, really hard to tackle, like really hard to tackle. Strong guy. He's not the shiftiest. He's not going to juke you out of your shoes. But if it takes 3 dudes to bring him down, in that sense, it reminded me a lot of watching Luther Burden run with the ball.
Oh yeah.
Now Luther's got more wiggle in his in his step than Olugbode does, at least that he's shown so far. But it takes 2 or 3 guys to tackle Luther Burden. The first guy never gets him down, and the same was very much the case when watching Olugbode play.
Yeah. As quick and shifty as Luther is, he will lower the shoulder. And ask South Dakota. He will run your ass over. So it's possible. Boy, I know this is inviting a lot of bad juju. So we'll knock the walls and everything. But man, I just watching Olugbode. I got shades of Denario Alexander, man, and I know that's 3 inches shorter and about 20 pounds lighter. But the way that he absorbs hits, the amount of squatting he does, where he can just carry a tackler, keep his balance. It's that kind of high school tape. And again, that doesn't mean that's going to translate to college, but you see the potential and you go, oh my God, if you could put that together at the college level, that's going to be an incredible weapon to have. And I do think he's probably going to be like 6'2", 6'3". That's how he looks. I know it says 6'1", 197, like you said, but no, that dude, he plays big and he's probably bigger than that. I'm so excited about this. This is the type of receiver that Eli Drinkwitz lacked in his first 3 years in Columbia. He just had all these shifty little slot receivers that would, quick, fast, crumple at a hit. And he just didn't have that big dude who could go up and catch it or absorb a hit. He tried it with Kiki Chisholm, right? We tried it with Dove, Toski Dove. But it's this type of receiver, except he's really good. And I can't, Theo Weiss is doing a great job right now. I can't wait to see what Olugbode does when he gets on campus. And he's the type of receiver that you need to complement a full weaponry in the receiving corps. So that's definitely going to be your guy. I'm very excited about him. Okay. So after that was the 5th. 4th was Boggs. 5th was Olugbode. Then you get around to the 6th. You're like, well, how can it possibly get any better? How could it possibly get any better? Well, Lamont Rogers. I'm mixing up my offensive line. Lamont Rogers, the 74th best player in the country. Currently said he's going to be an offensive guard. He is 6'8", 305, so I'm pretty sure he's going to be a tackle. But as of now, he's the 2nd best guard in the country. He's the 14th best prospect out of the state of Texas from Horn High School. 6'8", 305 as a high schooler. Again, probably not real, but just for reference, remember Bane from Batman? Remember that guy? We got a movie about him. So Bane came out in 1960s, something like that. Back then, Bane was 6'8", 350 pounds. That was a gigantic man, larger than life man. And here we got Lamont Rogers sitting at 6'8", 305 at 17 years old. So just throw that out there. Hurst, your thoughts on Mr. Rogers?
I mean, I'm still going to say that he is larger than life. 6'7", 6'8", however tall he actually is. He's actually a pretty pretty good basketball player too. I don't know if you saw him as a basketball player.
Yeah.
So which for offensive lineman is awesome because that means he's got really good, at least he has worked on his footwork in a way that and has experience moving his feet in a way that a lot of offensive linemen don't have, that have maybe heavier plodding feet. By playing basketball, by being not just playing, being a good basketball player down low, he's definitely worked on his footwork, and I think that can only translate well on the football side of things as well. Rogers, I am as excited I am about Boggs, as excited I am about Olugbode. Rogers, I think, and maybe Matt Zollers might be 1A, but Rogers is 1B for me in terms of the guys we are I am most excited about locking down the commitment for. Not even necessarily thinking about him playing, but the fact that we got his commitment in the first place blows my mind. This is a guy, 4-star, top 100 player from Dallas. We don't get top 100 players from Dallas. No one gets top 100 players from Dallas unless their name is Texas A&M, or Oklahoma. Guess what? All three of those teams had offered him, were in the mix. We were Final Four. We were Final Four with those three teams, and we beat them out. And that does not happen. I mean, LSU maybe could go in there and steal a guy once a decade. Maybe in Alabama, in their heyday, maybe a Florida or a Miami. That's it. Those are the type of programs that go into Dallas and take a top 100 player that UT and A&M and OU really, 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 really want. And we got him. And he's going to be our 2026 right tackle, I think. 2026 starting right tackle. Nice. Lamont Rogers, write it down right now. That's my call on the shot. This guy's really good. He's a monster. I just cannot imagine being a 16-year-old kid with acne and having to go up against him on a Friday night. And then the poor child, there are several children that are going to, in a couple months from now, have to line up across from this behemoth. Mm-hmm. Their mom's going to wake them up in the morning. Get up, honey. Today's Friday. Don't be sure to pass the geometry quiz, and don't get ready to get sat on by a juggernaut for 3 straight hours. I can't imagine that. If you watch this guy's film, that's as a junior, that's all he did. Yeah. That's all he did. He would take his guy, he would put him on the ground, and he'd sit on him. And he'd be done, and then the play would happen, and then he'd get up, would dust himself off, maybe help the guy up, go back, line up, take his guy, lay him down on the ground, sit on him. And that's about all you can ask for as an offensive lineman. I don't want a 6'7", 6'8", 310-pound man sitting on me. Certainly not when I was 16. I certainly, and
my God, ever.
Certainly not now. So I'm feeling really bad for those poor, kids that, I'm sure they'll have to cycle them out. It's not going to be the same kid for 3 full hours, but it's a really fun highlight. If you like watching offensive line highlights, some of us sickos do, some of us don't. That's one of the more fun ones for sure.
I do not enjoy it. It's very boring to me. Now, so you got to stand out. You got to do something a little bit different to keep me interested. And I will say, Lamont Rogers did some interesting things. If you go onto his huddle page, you go to his junior highlights, right around the 1 minute and 20 second mark. I think that's what it is. The defensive end, who is allegedly assigned to pass rush against Lamont Rogers. I'm not even joking. I don't know exactly when in the game it is, but he literally just puts his hands up and he just takes the hit. He just takes the hit. He doesn't even try. He takes it, crumples, and like Lamont Rogers is like, okay, and that was it. That was very funny. The things that stood out to me, you do have to scroll through basketball highlights, which I was very intrigued and watched a lot of it. And he's got some ups, man. Like his jumper's okay, but like he's 6'8". You just give it to the 6'8" guy and let him dunk. Like that's high school basketball. You can do that. But when you see him on the football field, you can see that translate too, because there are a couple of highlights where he is actually pulling from the tackle spot across the line, gets into like that BC gap, annihilates the linebacker, and then climbs to the second level and takes out another guy. He is quick, he can hit, and then he does not lose his momentum while he is doing that. Now, again, it's against high school. College players tend to absorb hits a little bit better. They can redirect you a little bit better, but still, you can see that movement. And yeah, when you watch high school tape, it's a lot of just bigger dudes rolling over smaller dudes and probably laying on them, which, okay. But I did see a little bit of pass protection, which was nice. You usually don't see that in high school offensive lineman tape. So thank you for showing me that. He's a little slow out of his stance to the point where he actually false started once to get a head start. But once he is set up, we can work on that. Once he is set up, he is really good at engaging his guy and keeping him out. So I really like how he is in pass pro. I like that he can move. I think he's a bit of a crap starter, because there are numerous parts of his tape where he gets up and puts his hands in the air like, oh, it wasn't me. So I'm like, oh, you're saying something. You're saying or doing something that you shouldn't. And I like that. I like that for my team. So, top 100 offensive lineman. Wherever he gets ended up slotted, he's going to be a top 100 offensive lineman. Have we ever had one of those? I don't think we have.
Offensive lineman, I can't imagine that we have.
Certainly
not from out of state.
Yeah, certainly not out of state. Was Evan Bain 100?
He was a 4-star. He was 4 stars, but I don't know if he was top 100. I would be surprised if he was. I remember his recruitment and being very excited about his commitment, but
Evan Bain was 148.
Yeah,
that is the highest we've ever had from an offensive lineman. Evan Bain, 148th. And what did I say Rogers was? 74. Oh, yeah.
Cut that in half.
God, that is so good. Oh, I'm getting.
And that's out of state. That's not East St. Louis out of state. That's not Kansas City, Kansas out of state. That's Dallas.
That's Dallas. Mesquite. Yeah. That's impressive. So Rogers was on the 6th, and you're sitting here and thinking to yourself, how could it possibly get any better? Well, here's your answer. We got another offensive lineman coming in. This one is Keaton Jones. He's not ranked. He's a 3-star. He's the 46th best tackle currently in the country, 7th best player out of the state of Kansas. Field Kinley High School. You don't hear a lot about Coffeyville high school guys. You usually hear them coming out of Coffeyville, the junior college route. But he is 6'5". He is 300 pounds, and he committed to Mizzou on July 7th, giving Mizzou 4 offensive linemen in this class, all of which are, at least top 10 prospects in their state, at least a high 3-star across the board. Keaton Jones is a mean dude. What did you like about him, or what did you think when he committed?
It's clear that he has a disdain for the other team. He just does not respect them, does not appreciate them, and wants to cause them discomfort at every way. He's good. He's the type of guy that in 2018, 2017, 2016, if we get his commitment and we go, log on, check out his held tapes, we decide, I'm pumped about this guy. This is going to be a good contributor for Mizzou. Probably not going to play in the first year or two, going to develop. By the time he's a junior, he's going to be ready to compete for a starting spot. Developmental guy. This is the Pinkel / Barry Odom. This is what we want. Very, solid get. Fast forward to 2024, and he might be down towards the bottom of the list in terms of guys that you're like, oh yeah, I'm just so psyched we got this guy. Let me be very clear. I'm very glad Keaton Jones is coming to come play for Mizzou Tigers. And what I'm trying to say is I think he's a great pickup. He's a great depth add to this class. He's not going to come in and be expected to contribute immediately. He's not going to be able to do that. But in a couple of years, he'll be second string and he'll give us good depth. And if someone goes down, God forbid, he'll be a good depth piece to have to be able to cycle in and keep that train rolling. And then down the road, 3 years maybe as a junior, he'll be able to compete. I see him more as a guard than as a tackle. I think he might be listed as a tackle, but he just seems like much more of his excelled at run blocking a lot more. I mean, he's a road grader, and typically you like to line those guys up in your guard spot unless they also are outstanding, pass blockers too, which maybe he turns into that too. But he really kind of reminded me of Xavier Delgado, and that kind of takes us back to 2018. You get a Xavier Delgado commitment, and you're like, oh yeah, okay, this guy, I can see. And he developed. He didn't play his first couple of years, and by the time he finished his time here 5 years later, he was a really good, starting level guard for Mizzou. And so that's kind of where I slot him in my mind. Excited. At worst case, he's going to be a good depth piece. And even if he never becomes a starter, he's a guy that you wouldn't be, by the time he's a junior, you're not going to be, super freaked out if he has to come in and play, start a game or two because someone turned an ankle or whatever. So good pickup. Not Lamont Rogers level thrilled out of my shorts, but you got to build. You can't have 20 Lamont Rogers on a class. So he's a good depth piece for sure.
Yeah. I mean, the thing about offensive linemen is that even the good ones usually sit, for a year. You get a rare instance like Texas A&M in 2012 that started 2 freshmen offensive tackles, or LSU a couple of years ago who did the same thing. Like that usually doesn't happen, and it was so noticeable at LSU because that was Brian Kelly's year, because that was the first time a freshman ever started on offensive line in LSU in its entire history. First time was with Brian Kelly. So again, LSU, top tier recruiting LSU, even their offensive linemen do not start the first year, and here they were doing it. So it's so weird for Mizzou fans to get excited about offensive line recruiting, because a lot of times, to your point, it's like, hey, I can't wait to see this guy in 3 years, and you just kind of you kind of forget about him, and then oh that guy 3 years ago, oh yeah, now he's yeah okay, I remember him, and so you don't really get geeked up about offensive linemen like you would like a receiver or certainly a quarterback, even a running back. But you can't help yourself when you're bringing in a guy who's a top 100 prospect in the country, one of the best offensive linemen in the country, especially, from the state of Texas, where we usually don't get those guys. So, yeah, it does kind of drown out the usual recruiting of offensive line, which is like, yeah, awesome project. You can see what he's going to be, and, can't wait to see him in a couple of years, which, may or may not be fair to him, but that's just kind of how it works. I do like Keaton Jones a lot. I think he is so fast out of his stance, it almost seems like he is false starting, but he engages so quick, and he churns with his linemen. He's able to not only pull the way he needs to pull, but take the defender with him, which is great. I love that. Make sure you don't hold, but that's great overall. So there are skills there that I like, and yeah, he just gets drowned out by all the hype with Lamont Rogers. But both of these guys, you want to look in a couple of years and say, yeah, that July 4th weekend in 2024, that solidified the right side of our SEC winning, offensive line here. They won the Remington, they won the offensive line trophy. You want to look back and these two guys were that centerpiece for that. And I don't want to put too much pressure on these guys, but this is what that kind of recruiting does, where you put stars in your eyes, you start thinking more as possible, instead of hoping that depth and that development hurts, and then a couple of years seeing if it did or not. I'm so hot. Just like Eli Drinkwitz on the recruiting trail. I had a wild thought, Nathan Hurst, and I need you to douse some water on me. There's no doubt in my mind, with all respect to Faroe, Devine, all the coaches that came before, Eli Drinkwitz is the best Missouri football recruiter in the history of Missouri. I'm going to say that right now. And I know it's not just him, it's him and his staff. I feel comfortable saying he's the best recruiter in Missouri football history. Now, here's where I'm going to get nuts, and here's why I need you to douse some water on me. Eli Drinkwitz and his staff, top 5 recruiting staff in the nation.
I could
agree
see
or
it.
Disagree.
I could see it. Given the the relative starting points and the programs that they're working for, just about anybody can recruit players to play at University of Texas.
Yep.
I could show up at someone's door with a Lamborghini behind me and say, "Hey, you want to come play at Texas?" And I'm going to get a lot of guys. And I'll say, "I don't know anything about football, but you can come play for me. Here's your Lambo keys. All right, boom. You come to Austin. It's a real cool place. Lots of attractive people there. There you go. So yes, given where they're recruiting to, given the type of trajectory that the recruiting rankings and the type of caliber of player on average that they've gotten in the short time. I mean, we're not talking a decade span here where they've built up slowly. I mean, we're in year 5 now, and you don't really even count the first year because of COVID. So where they couldn't travel to visit recruits or anything like that. So really kind of year 4-ish. And they've gone from Barry Odom level, level recruiting to, what's looking like, yet another top 15 class. I mean, it's in the top 15 now. I don't see any reason why would drop below that again. And that'd be the second out of in the last 3 years where they've had a top 15 class. Recruiting to Mizzou, and Mizzou doesn't get top 15 classes. It's very different and I love Columbia. Columbia's a great place, but very different to get top level recruits, not only from Dallas and from Florida to come to Columbia to play football, but even from St. Louis. I mean, has he gotten every single 4 or 5-star guy out of St. Louis? No, but he's gotten enough of them. And even below the 4 5-star guys, he's gotten the 3-star guys that are going to turn into really good players as well. And getting those kids here has never been easy, and that's just right down the road. So they're doing all of that. I can see that. Now back to, are they the best recruiting staff at Mizzou in history? I don't think there's a question. Now, is recruiting the same game that it was in the 60s when Dan Devine was here? I mean, no, it's not even the same sport. What that entire recruiting world was not even a glimmer in Dan Devine's eye. You brought in the kids from your state, maybe got lucky with a couple guys on the border states, and that's kind of how you recruited everyone. That's kind of how everyone recruited back in the 60s, just because there weren't the budgets to travel, and budgets in general to bring and TV. Kids wouldn't come from Texas to Mizzou to play because their parents would never get to see him play. They wouldn't even get to listen to him on the radio. So that's just kind of how it was. But that's not the case now. You can watch every game as many times as you want, no matter where you are in the world. So completely different sport. But yes, they're definitely their only competition would be Pinkel and
I mean, just given the fact that Mizzou's football history, which as Mizzou fans we love, but I think all of us will admit, not Ohio State, not Alabama, not Michigan, not Notre Dame even, let alone Texas, USC, anybody like that. Like, it's a good program. It's, top 40 program probably in the history of the sport. No, like a conference championship, 60 years ago at this point. We've won the division a couple of times, challenged for a conference title, almost got to the national title a couple of times. Like a lot of almost and not a whole lot of trophies, some outstanding players here and there. And so for Eli Drinkwitz to come into that program and do what he has done, how many other coaches and how many other staffs can do that? I don't know. And what's crazy to me is that it's not, everyone's going to point to Missouri's NIL laws, right? Hey, the state passed this law. It's going to make it easier for them to recruit. Well, it's going to make them easier to recruit in state. The fact that he is doing this with out-of-state kids who don't benefit from the Missouri law, that is what is pushing me over the edge here and going, oh my God, this is a top 5 recruiting staff, because he's not locking down every single Missouri kid and, building it off of in-state blue chips. He has gone into places that Missouri has never gone into. Matt Zollers is from Pennsylvania. Name one other Missouri Tiger from Pennsylvania. 5 seconds.
Harold Brantley, we've had this discussion. Yeah. He's the guy. He's the other guy.
He's the only one. I mean, you might have a walk-on here or there, but, that's it. He's got 2 blue chippers out of the state of Florida. Never did that before. We talked about Dallas. He just got an offensive lineman out of Dallas. Unheard of. Got a 4-star out of Memphis, Tennessee. Now, we've got Memphis before, but we haven't got a lot of blue chips out of there, okay? Now, yes, you have a 4-star offensive tackle from Missouri, from Eureka, Missouri, named Jack Lane. Yes, you got the defensive, offensive lineman, kind of both out of Belleville, Illinois, which is like your usual stuff. Missouri's done that before. We have not won in Pennsylvania. We have not won in Ohio. Getting Dante McClellan out of Ohio, how the hell did we do that? How did we end up on his radar? How did we outbid Ohio State and Penn State for that guy? This is not some sneaky underhanded tactic of, oh well, they're cheating this way to get these guys. No, everything's above board now, and they're still winning. So either they have found a way to cheat in a world where everything is okay, or they're just really freaking good at recruiting. 8 blue chippers in the same class, never done before. Things can change, but 4 top 100 players in the same class, never done before. He's got to be considered the best recruiting staff in the country. Because, like I think I wrote for Alabama, you could put a raccoon in a trucker hat in Alabama, and they probably win 6 games and have a top 10 recruiting class. It doesn't matter there. It does matter here, and he's doing it here. So I would love for someone to change my mind, but for now, I'm saying top 5, and I'm being conservative. Top 5 recruiting staff in the country.
Yeah, I don't think there's a question. I mean, are they the best? There's a whole lot of arguments you can make for and against, but top 5, yes. Because if you put this staff, with the relative lack of resources that Mizzou has, now we've got a lot of resources, absolutely. We're an SEC school, but you put this staff at a USC or at a Georgia or at a Texas, and they are doing every bit as well as a Kirby Smart at Georgia is doing, or a Sarkisian at Texas is doing, if not better, even just because of all those additional millions and millions of dollars worth of resources and past history and alumni support that those programs have that, Mizzou's building toward. We'd love to, kind of be there at some point. Not there yet, but they're doing their damnedest to make it happen, dragging us in some cases, kicking and screaming to the point, to get there, maybe changing the way some of the things are run on the back end, and maybe perhaps some of the administrators who are running the things on the back end in recent months as well. But Drinkwitz has got a vision, and there's nothing really stood in his way so far to reach where he's going, at least on the recruiting trail.
Yeah. I just, when I wrote about Alabama in the preview I did 2 weeks ago, whatever that was, the thing that I really admired about Saban, and the thing that worked for him at almost every stop, was that, yeah, he was a transcendent defensive mind. Yes, he out-hustled everybody on the recruiting trail. Like, all true, all reasons why he succeeded. But his biggest thing was that he was really, really good at working the golf circuit and getting the booster corps and just all the political stuff. He had that stuff on lockdown. He made him kiss the ring. He said, you are doing exactly what I'm telling you to do. You shut up and write the checks. And it worked at LSU. It worked so well at LSU that dumb old Les Miles won a national championship there. And then he turned around and did it at Alabama, which is basically Auburn with their stuff together for the past 17 years, because Alabama had Nick Saban and Auburn has had a rotating cast of coaches. You just get to the point where these boosters are so overzealous and overactive and just pulling things into what they want that it undermines the program. And Saban can cut through that and get that done. Now, how does that relate to Eli Drinkwitz? I'm not saying Missouri has the nutso booster fan base that these other schools have. What they did have was a problem of St. Louis kids not liking Columbia, not thinking it was cool to go to Mizzou, of the either real or fake, rivalry between St. Louis and Kansas City, or the absolutely real rivalry between Columbia and Springfield. All these little places that hate each other in the state for no real reason. He has somehow gotten them all bought in to donate money, to get involved with this program, to get elite football talent to this school. Again, I don't know the books. I don't know how it works. I will say a year ago, I was at an engagement for Mizzou football, and a guy came up to me, and he said that he had started donating. He wouldn't tell me how much, and I didn't ask, but he said that he had not done it before because he had been approached by other administrations before, and they were asking for things that were illegal in NCAA terms. And he said, no, I'm not going to do that. And then that sort of stuff was legal. in the NCAA's eyes. And he said, yeah, now I'm totally cool with it. So it's a little bit of timing. It's a little bit of the era, and it's a little bit of the guy who's running the show, where you just get this perfect storm of, you can do more now in recruiting. That's okay. You have a guy who can get in front of those people and unite them in the vision, and then turn around and get these kids bought into what they're doing, making Mizzou, Columbia, Missouri, a destination place for football talent, and then turning around and winning 11 games. He has shown that all of this can be done. And I'm not saying he's Nick Saban, but he's certainly shown a propensity to wrangle cats like Saban did and take advantage of the situation that he's in with recruiting. Clearly to a fortuitous event so far. We'll see what it is long term, but it's the perfect storm. And I can't believe it's happening at Mizzou, and he's making me care about recruiting. It's incredible.
It's fun. It's fun. I mean, next step is to follow up 11-2 with another 11-2.
Yep.
Because this recruiting boon can last just as long as your next season's success. At least that's where Mizzou is right now. Where we've had a couple great runs of recruiting here, bolstered by an 11-2 season, but we're not to the point yet where we can sustain another 7-5, a 2 7-5s, another 6-6. We've got to keep that upward trajectory to build to the point where, if Georgia goes 6-6 next year, they're still going to bring in a top 5 class a year after that.
Yep.
If we go 6-6 next year, not that I think we are in danger of going 6-6 next year, but if we were, then he's got to go back to the drawing board and rebuild a lot of this momentum once again to get it going. Now, down the road, few years, can we get to the point where we could withstand a down year and still keep this up? Hopefully, yeah. I think that could eventually be the case. It's not the case now, so not to be a turd in the punch bowl, but he's got to keep following it up with success on the field. I know most Mizzou fans know that anyway, but that's the case, and so that's what makes this next season so exciting, but also so important. I mean, certainly last year was probably his most important season for his career, just because he came into the season, very much, at least publicly, seeming from the outside, from those who aren't necessarily following the program, a lot of folks thought he was very much on the hot seat. I don't know if he really was or not, but if he had had 6-6 last year, then this year he certainly would have been on the hot seat. Had a great year. He's not going anywhere. Mizzou's not doing anything with him. If he's going anywhere, it's on his own accord. Certainly for the next several years. So, if he wants to keep this momentum at Mizzou, he's got to keep it on the field.
What's the lowest win total next year where you can still claim momentum?
I think 9-3, probably, to say the type of momentum that they've been selling. We are an elite program. We will compete for the SEC title. We will compete for a playoff spot. 9-3. Now, could he get away with 8-4 and say, "Hey, look at us. We've gone 19-6 in the last 2 years, and maybe 8-4 and win a bowl game and go 9-4." Yeah, 9-4 would probably do it if you go 8-4 and then win a nice bowl game. Are they going to bring in a class as good as this next year? If that's the case, maybe not quite as good, but maybe they fall back to 20th or something, which is still for Mizzou in the upper echelon of classes.
I need to see what the playoff committee does with the expanded playoff, because if we're in a situation where, I'm not saying it's right, mind you, but I'm saying if we are in a situation where a 3-loss SEC team just gets every benefit of the doubt and has a chance to get into the playoff, that's it. That's enough. That's enough to go into these, into these places that we've never been before and say, yeah, we went 9-3. Have you seen where we play in the SEC? Have you seen that 3-loss teams get into the playoff? Son, would you like to play in the playoff in your career? This is the place. Now, if we get, and we're only going to have a sample size of 1, and then we're only going to have a sample size of 2. So all of this is really tough to sell, but you're convincing 17-year-olds. We're not the brightest people in the world, okay? So all you got to do is figure out what that is. But if the playoff committee says, you know what, 3 losses, we're just never going to do that. And I don't know if they will or not. Obviously, context matters, not only in your losses as a team, but what the rest of the nation's doing. If 3 lost teams just do not get in, whether you're SEC or not, then, okay, that's going to be tough. But for this season, yes, I would say 9 wins. You could probably still claim momentum. kind of depends on where those losses come. If you lose to the 3 toughest teams on your schedule, you like to win one of those. But at least you can say we beat who we're supposed to beat, and we gave them a hell of a run on the other 3. Now, if you beat one of them and then you gack away, Auburn, or something like that, and geez, like, I don't know. Context matters to that stuff. But also, you're an elite pitchman if you're an Eli Drinkwitz around his staff, so you can probably spend as much as you want. But yeah, you do need to keep up momentum, especially with these guys, because all these are just verbal commitments, and that can change, especially in our area of NIL. And we got a whole season to hold on to these guys. Not saying any of them are happy to defect, but like, if you are this talented, people aren't giving up just because you put a hat on your head a couple days ago. Like, that does not stop. Are any of these guys? And again, I don't want to write them off, but how worried are you about any of these guys making it all the way to December?
I mean, I don't know any of them personally, so I have absolutely no
general vibes.
But based on I know Javon Boggs actually tweeted yesterday. It's like, I'm closing my recruitment. Stop contacting me. I'm done, which is great. He can always reopen his recruitment whenever he wants. But at least for now, he's not. A lot of guys will make a commitment, but still take other official visits. Get wine and dine. Just, hey, why not? I'd take all my official visits, even if I was committed. Get a free trip somewhere and get free food and all that fun stuff. But he's said he's shutting it down. So I towards the bottom list of likely guys. Matt Zollers, he's been so vocal from the beginning. I would put him very low on the list of guys likely to flip. There's always a chance, and I feel like we always lose a guy here or there every class. That's what we probably pick up a guy who decommitted from somewhere else at some point down the line. I mean, Boggs was committed to Ohio State at one point before he dropped. So it certainly happens. I mean, I look once again at a guy like Lamont Rogers. So shocked that we got him. It was such hard competition. A guy like that, would you really blame him if Texas is undefeated and going into the national championship and they give him another call to, hey, Lamont, this could be you, and maybe we go 9-3 and just miss the playoffs. Would you blame him? Probably not, but I hope we can hold on to him. But you never. I mean, and maybe he's so sold on Mizzou that he's going to close up his recruiting shop too.
Could happen. Yeah. I'm not sending anybody away. And obviously, you always want to be in a position where you're fighting other schools off rather than trying to snake a dude away. I don't know. It's just it's rare. It's a rare air that we are in, where all these highly rated guys are committed to Mizzou in July, 5 months before they need to.
The high ranking commits we have gotten have always come come later in the cycle too. I mean, Luther was like in October, wasn't he? And DGB might have been. I think he was in the summer, but it was late, like August at least. Williams Guarneri was in August. I mean, right before the season started as well. So these are early.
Oh boy, DGB was February 1st of 2000.
Oh, that's right. It was on signing day, because that was back when there was only the one signing day.
Yeah,
that's right. I'm remembering now. So he
was
a
simpler time,
as late as you could get. That's right.
God, I remember I was at work and I had the desktop Twitter app open. And I was like trying to refresh. I was like, come on, Dave, because Dave Matter was down there, or everyone was down there. But I was like, come on, let me see it. I'll never forget. I refreshed it. First tweet that popped up, and Dave Matter says, "It's Mizzou, folks." And I was just like, yeah, I forgot. It's like, I'm still in professional mode, but like, oh my God, yes.
I watched it live in my office. So
there you go.
There were shouts of joy and acclamation. I was working at Mizzou at the time. I mean, people weren't too mad about it. They were equally excited, actually. But good times indeed.
Yeah. Well, I remember in our mailbag episode, somebody asked, the assistant coaches who were, I forget how they phrased it. It was like most valuable, or you'd be most mad if they left. And I mentioned Jacob Peeler, and then a couple of weeks later, 2 Florida receivers commit. Nasty whiteouts, baby. That's Jacob Peeler magic right there. Okay. Did you see those the pictures that Drink tweeted out about the end zone?
I did, and the pictures were, I think, were kind of some of the same ones that we've seen, but he gave us a little more detail about what like the actual seating areas will be, because when they first announced it a couple of months ago, it was like, look at these pretty pictures without premium seating, whatever that means, and so we have a little more detail, at least, about the types of different seating, and this may be probably above my pay grade in terms of being able to sit there, but I thought it was interesting the number of different kinds of quote unquote premium seating that are going to be offered now.
Yeah.
So we've got like they call it an outdoor club cabana, which sounds very tropical. And it's like, I think it's kind of like a club that you can go up and get food and drinks and stuff, but then go down, it's exclusive to your area. And then you go down and sit in your reserve seats. And it kind of sounds similar to what already exists on the east side when they put the east side edition with the upper deck underneath there. Very similar, except that that's indoors. So you have to go inside to find the spread and get the bar and all that stuff. And this is outside. So I think it probably means you probably see the game while you're getting your beer, which would be an improvement. And then there's what really thought was interesting, and it made me look closer at the images, which I noticed is they've added now a Rock M Club is what they're calling it. And it's actually going to be under the hill.
Yeah.
So it looks like what they're probably going to do is like dig under. I don't know if they're going to take the whole hill out and then rebuild it, but there's going to be like basically field level premium seating, similar to on the other end zone. They've got field level premium seating with a club area that you can go back inside, where the kind of by the locker rooms. This will be on the opposite side, but it's going to be under the Rock Hill, which is kind of cool. So if you want to feel like a hobbit and live under the hill, you could be in the Rock M Club.
Yeah, baby.
That may not, even if I had the money, that may not be my jam. I kind of like to be up a little higher so I can see, the whole field, but to each their own.
See, I don't get it. I mean, if you want to go World War I, dig under the trench and watch your favorite team from the seclusion of a bunker, like knock yourself out. I get the south end zone because that's where the team comes out. They can slap them on the bottom. You can say, "Go get him, Tiger." Like you can do that sort of stuff. And like, yeah, there's a restaurant and a bar there and all that's. But that's the benefit. That's the upside. Hey, you can't see the game, but they're going to be running right past you. All the smoke in the garage door. You're right there. What's in the north end zone? Are we going to keep a live Tiger there? Boy, my dream, and I know we've talked about this because we had this same discussion where we said that Mizzou needs to find a tiger and then train a monkey to ride that tiger and then send that thing out when the team comes out. He's got a little cowboy hat with a name on it, and he rides the tiger, and then he gives the finger to everybody else who's not a Mizzou fan. And so if you're keeping the monkey and the tiger in the north end zone, good. I would pay money to go sit in the hole underneath the Rock M and go watch that tiger. I don't know what else is in there, though, so it just kind of feels like you're sacrificing a good view of a live game for a covered trench where you're watching TV and it's happening outside, I guess. I don't know. Yeah. Someone sell it to me. I don't know what I'm
people want to pay a lot of money to Mizzou to do that, to each their own.
That's fair.
Mizzou will take their money. And maybe you're there more for the social aspect of the experience than the live football, and that they're to each their own. They all are welcome at Faroe Field, as long as they pay their ticket on on the way in. So buy a couple more beers while you're there, and give a little more money to Mizzou while you're there, and it wouldn't be my first choice, but if it's a cold game and you want to be able to go back inside,
that will be
nice insulated hill. It will be warm under there. Hills are very insulated if you get up underneath them. So maybe there's the plus for you.
I can't wait to see all the videos on social media about them lifting this hill up so they can make this little hidey hole in there. That's gonna be very cool. And you got a bunch of ribbon advertising, like the little the boards along the side there. So you're going to see probably scores from across the country, or the Missouri Tiger Head and all that stuff, and that's going to be very modern, very cool. I guess we're calling it Faroe Field at Memorial Stadium. Is that the official rebranding? I guess is what we're calling it. So you get both in there, which that's fine by me.
Kind of what it's always been anyway. I think, and just now saying it the entire thing out,
Yeah. Yeah, whatever.
If they want to sell the name of Memorial Stadium to some, to Anheuser-Busch or something, I wouldn't hate it. Make a few extra bucks.
Yeah. Well, not that we're hurting for it apparently, but yeah, that'd be nice. So I'm wondering, is this going to be in the game? Because I know that, a lot of schools sent in, like Northwestern, for example, they sent in renderings of their future stadium, which is not going to be in the game this year, but will be in following games, versus Vanderbilt, which has been under construction for at least a year, and that finished product will be in the game. So I don't know what Mizzou's is going to look like here, but
there were some leaked renderings of Faroe a few weeks ago, actually, that came out. I think some enterprising journalism student entered a sunshine request to Mizzou for what renderings they sent to the game, and they released those. And in those, it was the current layout for the South End Zone. I'm sure. Now the question will be next year. So for the 2026 game, which will come out next summer, because that's when they're going to be under construction. So that I could see them moving to the new version, even though it's not going to be ready for even then the following year after that. I could see them doing it for next year though, because it'll be cranes and dust and plastic tarps and stuff.
Yeah, the good stuff. Well, the game comes out next Friday. Or sorry, early is next Tuesday, right? The 16th?
Yes. If you're one of the high rollers or pre-ordered the deluxe edition, you get it downloaded to you directly on Tuesday, or maybe Monday at midnight Monday night.
Yeah.
For the plebes that just got the regular edition, Friday it will come out. So it's, by the time we're recording once again, I will have completed probably at least 2 seasons of Dynasty. That's my goal. I'll have a week to do it.
Okay.
My marriage may suffer for it, but that's going to be the goal.
Yeah. Well. Go back to, we talked about in the mailbag about, a little bit of marriage stuff and how you knew the right one. It's also letting people know what's important to you. And while you love your wife, love your kids, love your spouse, love everything about the family time, make some time for yourself, everybody. Get in there. Go order your favorite takeout, a case of your favorite alcoholic beverage, kick up your feet, and just get back into new college football game, which we have not been able to enjoy for like 10 years. Are you afraid of being washed and being terrible at the new game to the point where you no longer like it?
Oh, I wasn't until you brought up that possibility.
Whoops, sorry.
No. Now, I think I'll be good enough to at least have fun playing against the computer. I'll be able to figure out against the computer, what do I need to do to win? Now, am I going to be great against, real people in an online community? I'm sure there'll be a bunch of 12-year-olds that will call me horrible names while they grind my face into the dirt. I think that's just the case for every online game these days, because 12-year-olds have way more time to play video games than I do. So I'm not going to hold that against me too much if I suck on a human scale. But I feel confident I can take even the worst program to glory after a couple seasons against the computer.
I believe in your program building capabilities as well. Man, it's just a good time to be Missouri Tiger, man. All these cool recruits are coming in. You're getting a brand new stadium and a video game's dropping in a couple of days. I mean, these are high water times. Excellent times to be a Mizzou Tiger. Let's get out of here. It's almost been an hour. But final thoughts. What is your last thought on the show before we get the heck out of here?
Final thought is, recruiting. Why stop now? We've got a couple more guys coming up. One tomorrow on Wednesday, Charles Bass, 4-star, could very easily be the next blue chip recruit Mizzou's got. Let's keep our fingers crossed there. So let's keep the positive momentum rolling.
Absolutely. And that's going to be our show for today. As always, we appreciate the downloads and the subscriptions. You can leave a comment or rate us. We love all types of feedback from you all. You can follow us on Twitter. I'm at Nate G. Edwards. He's at First to Hurst. Of course, you can follow the Rock M flagship at Rock M Nation and our podcasting outlet at Rock M Radio. We appreciate you tuning in this time. We'll try to do better next time. And until then, MIZ.
ZOU.